Hey everyone, it's P4L. We're back again with another review, back-to-back days, this time with another new release. This is Unique Toys Dragoon, UTR-03. This is obviously their version of Last Night Megatron. A huge box, is also a very big figure in general. He also comes with this like display stand slash segment of, I guess what I was told by another fan was that this is like part of Shockwave's I guess tentacles or whatever you want to call it, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But that this does come as a package, so you get a lot for this. So let's get this out of the way first. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and let's look at Dragoon. The packaging itself is just pretty nicely done. Mine's a little beat up a little bit, but the package is really nice artwork on the front. Really nothing much else on the top and the sides. And again, the back you see a little bit of his robot and his alt mode kind of in the shadows, interestingly enough. So this is what you get out of the box. You get a stack card, just a thick cardboard type stack card. You actually see the front and back of Megatron, which I guess is pretty cool in the sense that you can actually see how clean the back is. It is something that they should be proud of. They did an amazing job hiding all the kibble and everything like that. The transformation's pretty unique. The instructions, speaking of the instructions are awful, like really terrible. They just skip major steps that if you don't follow, you'll break your figure. They're not very clear. I tried my best not to look at any instructions, but I end up having to give up and go online and watch. I think Hobby Miser is the one I watched, their review, in order to get some information on how some of the idiosyncrasies of the transformation works. So let's start with the stand first. So the stand comes in this little package here. You get a whole bunch of segments here that you need to plug in, so you just have to construct it yourself. But they just clip in and they clip out. You get a whole bunch of these sections here. There's 6 of these, and then a whole crap ton of these smaller ones. And the way it works is you'll put 2 in. You'll put one of these large ones in, like so. They just clip on. And luckily, if you need to disassemble them, they're pretty easy to get out. But then you put 2 of these smaller ones in, and then another large one. So that's kind of the pattern that you want to do to make them evenly spaced. I'm not going to go through all this for you on screen, but I just wanted to at least show you that's how it works. So once you're done, this is what you get. And it looks quite nice. It has some basic molded detail, nothing too detailed or crazy. And then it has a section here that matches another section on here. So apparently you can plug multiple sections of this together. I don't know who would want a display that has so many of these that you would want to connect multiple together. But I guess you can if you collect enough DX9 or Dragoons, and who knows how many other figures this will come with. But at least comes with Dragoon. I imagine they'll probably include this with some of their future releases, or be able to buy this separately. So yeah, that's it for the stand or Shockwave thing. And then you can see Megatron here in his huge plastic tray. He has a blaster, a shield, his kind of sword thingy, kind of like an axe. I don't even know what it's called. He comes with a bonus head for their Unique Toys Challenger, or their Optimus Prime, which is a replacement for the one that came with it, obviously. They didn't send a figure without a head, but it's one that mimics the transformation that the official had, where you could just lift the face up and switch the face that way instead of having to disassemble anything. So looking at the Challenger head, you can see it looks quite nice. We'll do a comparison later with the stock one with Challenger. But the way to transform it is you just pull this up. Rotate this around, it's like kind of like spring-loaded. And then fold it back down. So out of packaging, all you really need to do to get him transformed is to bring his shoulder pylons or whatever, shoulder armor down like so. And there we have Dragoon in robot mode, and he looks really quite nice. I will say I think the paint job is a little too nice, in the sense it's too clean for kind of this battle damaged or battle worn warrior that you would imagine. It just looks too pristine to me. But let's go ahead and do a quick 360 of this guy. And I apologize, he's so large that it's actually very difficult to get him on screen. I had to use another lens earlier. And again, I apologize for the autofocus. I really don't know what's going on with my app. I might have to switch apps now, just because this autofocus is bothering me so much in the last couple of reviews. But you can see just how clean he is. There's not a lot of kibble going on at all. Not in the legs, not in the back. Really not much at all. You can't see really anything on the sides. They did a really good job engineering this figure. So let's take a look at his weapons real quick. So like I said, here's his shield. It has a little peg here. You can peg it into either of the forearms, like so. That itself also has a peg hole if you want to combine it with the cannon, I suppose. Like so. You can do that. It also has a tab here, which you can use with the sword, which tabs in. All those configurations also kind of work on the back. As you can see, there's a peg there. Alternatively, you can kind of recreate the movie look with this tab here and have it kind of at an angle. This tab doesn't really work that well, though. I don't know why. It doesn't seem all that well toleranced. It's kind of finicky trying to keep it, this one with the sword in particular, in. I don't know why that would be the case, but there we go. We finally got it, but it's kind of precariously tabbed in. So be careful with that, so it just very easily falls off. The cannon, it actually transforms. It has a nice paint detail, golden details here and so forth. Not too shabby, but this can transform into a handle for storage, not handle, a peg for alt mode. But for robot mode, you want to use this one. You can go into either arm. That tabs in here, or pegs in here, and then you have this die cast chain, which is nice, and it has a peg that goes into back of either of the shoulders, like so. And so, come on, there we go. And that can complete his look with his cannon. The movie, I remember looking at the scenes in review for this to see how accurate this was. The cannon looks very accurate, the sword looks very accurate, but for the life of me, I cannot find any scene where he actually had the shield in the movie, and so I don't know if that is actually a thing or not. But there we go. He holds very well with that tabbed configuration. But for now, we're just going to get rid of all this stuff, just to make it easier to do the review and transformation. So the transformation is pretty unique, and it has some cool points that are going on, but it also has some really, really frustrating pieces. And again, the instructions are awful. Maybe worse, probably worse than what we got with the recent review I did of Zeta's Pioneer, just because there's just a lot that's skipped here. And at least this one, at least that one, I didn't feel like I was going to break anything if I didn't follow the steps. This one, it literally skips steps that will have you breaking your figure. So be careful there. Other functionality is he also has a face swapping mechanism. How you use that is you have to basically flip the whole head around. But to do that, you need to turn the head. To do that, you have to untab this section. The easiest way to do that is move the shoulders back on kind of this butterfly joint and untab outward like this. And that'll give you just enough room to get the head around. From here, you're going to lift up on the helmet, flip it all the way around, and then it has to go in straight. And sometimes it gets a little finicky trying to get in here. There we go. And then with that, you have his battle mask mode, and you can even close up the battle mask like he does in the movie by adjusting these things to come straight into the middle. And that looks really nice. Very menacing looking. Oh, sorry, we should close this back up. Very menacing looking. Yeah, same thing with this paint detail here. While it is somewhat accurate, he has that kind of red smudge. It's a little too clean, like it was, tampoed on as a design element, as opposed to kind of like battle worn from the movie. So it's just kind of weird that it's too clean. All right, so what other things can we talk about? Oh, there is one piece of accessory functionality that I didn't talk about, which was the LED, and that's really because I don't have the battery here. So it doesn't tell you in the instructions anywhere what type of battery you need. They even molded the battery direction here on this casing for you, but they don't tell you anywhere what battery it is. And apparently it's an LR42, which I couldn't find from any review. The one review, I think from Hobby Miser, actually says it's like LR40, which doesn't exist. But I asked my buddy, and he asked the buddy. I asked T-Man, and he asked his buddy Jordan, and Jordan said it was LR42. I don't have that. That's the first time I've ever heard of that one, so I don't have that battery. So unfortunately, I can't show you. There's a little button here, and based on what Hobby Miser's review showed, it actually has like 3 functions. There's one that is just on. So the first click is on. The second click will pulse. And then the third one will pulse rapidly. So you have 3 different modes that are shown off. And again, I apologize for not having the right battery, but if I did hold off to get a new battery, it would be like a week before I did this review. And I didn't want to wait that long. All right, so let's get into some comparisons before I do articulation. Scoot him back a bit. The first one I'll do is with their Challenger, their Optimus Prime. You can see people are probably going to be like, oh, that is way out of scale, but that's probably pretty close based on the movie scale. Optimus has always been in the movie scale shorter than Megatron. And you can see just real quick the difference in the detail in the face. Yeah, so I do like this one better. I will be swapping that out at a later date. And I haven't actually looked into how to do it. I imagine you just have to pull it up. Yeah, you just have to unscrew this here and screw the other one on. So that should be pretty easy. But that's the scale we're working with here. Let's look at him next to the Honey Badger KO. This is not oversized. This is the same like 1-to-1 KO of Honey Badger from Honey Badger. This is the MPM, was it 8 Megatron from the first movie. Let's see who else we have. We have Perukill. Was it? I think it's Unique Toys Perukill. There we go. And then I think that's DX9's Lahire. I think that's DX9. I always forget the company names. And then, just for fun of it, here he is next to the Zeta Toys Bumblebee that I just showed off. These aren't supposed to be in scale with each other, so ignore that. This is larger than MP scale. Before we go any further, let's talk about articulation. So we've already kind of looked at the head a bit, but his head is on a swivel and a hinge, so it can go all the way around. Again, it does interfere here or collide here, so just be careful with that. His shoulder pieces we saw are on a hinge up here and a ball joint at the top. Oops. Ball joint at the top. This piece is spring loaded, and they don't really tell you what this is for. And again, the instructions are really bad, but I think I figured out why this is needed for, or at least recommended for transformation. He does have a slight butterfly joint, but it only goes backwards predominantly. But his shoulders are ratcheted, can go all the way up and around. The one thing I will note here is that because of the way this is molded, his arms can't go straight down. They are always a little bit far out from his body. He doesn't have a bicep swivel, unfortunately, but he does have an elbow swivel and an elbow bend, ratcheted elbow bend, 90 degrees. His wrists are also kind of interesting. They do have a swivel that can go all the way around, and then a joint that lets you angle it in. But I kind of wish it was a ball joint, because then you can't angle it the way I would like it. Or even when you're holding a sword, he's holding a sword, I'd like it to be able to angle down a bit, but he can't do that, unfortunately. His thumb is on a ball joint and one pin joint of articulation. The other fingers have 3 joints, and they are all in. The first one is individually articulated, and then the other 2 are molded at least at the base as one piece here, and then separate pieces here and here. Well, separate pieces meaning they have points of articulation, but each individual finger is not separate. There we go. Just close that up. Coming to the waist, he does not have an ab crunch, but he can do 360 at the waist here. Like I said, no ab crunch, unfortunately, mostly based on the way he has to transform. He does have spring-loaded hip skirts. So Unique Toys also had some spring-loaded hip skirts, I believe. I mean, the Challenger also had some spring-loaded hip skirts. I don't think that's fully necessary, but I guess it's kind of a nice piece. It is ball jointed up here. And then one thing to note is that these nicely metallic painted copper pieces do tend to rub along his leg, and that can damage the paint here. So just be careful. Don't try to grab it by the whole waist. Try to grab it by the leg or midsection so you're not putting a lot of pressure and wearing any of that plastic. His crotch pieces are also interesting. They're on a hinge that come outward or inward, and then another hinge that go upward. You would think that they'd be ball jointed, but again, they're not. His butt flap can also articulate a little bit. I don't know why that's wholly necessary, but you can get a little bit more butt flappage. So as far as the legs go, trying to get these out the way. You can ratchet them forward, but again, they run into this piece more than anything else. So you can't get a whole lot of range going forward, unfortunately. Only about that far, and back until he hits the butt flap. Out to the side is ratchet. Oh, sorry, there's friction this way and ratcheted going out that way. I don't know if I mentioned that. He does have a thigh swivel, which can go 360 if you needed to, and you will for transformation. And then he has a knee bend. It looks like it's double jointed, but it's not really, because this piece really is intended to be plugged in. That's one of the instruction steps that they fail to tell you about. And you're really only supposed to use this. And it's also just like Unique Toys Challenger in that the leg joint is really far back, like on the leg. Not up here as you would imagine, but it works. It's fine. Coming down to the lower leg, he has some pieces that move a little bit out the way. Like this is spring loaded. You can move this out the way, but he really doesn't have any foot articulation to speak of, aside from a little bit of toe up and down, and then a little bit of ankle tilt. You can see that going on here. He doesn't have a separate heel or anything like that, and the range is pretty limited. But yeah, that's it for articulation. Let's go ahead and go into the transformation. That's what I think most people will be interested in, because this is, again, a super frustrating transformation if you don't know what you're doing. Once you get it down, it's not too bad though. And again, it's quite a feat of engineering that they're able to get this clean of a figure looking like the movie render. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we'll do is come to the back here, and we're going to pull back this back section. Gosh, this autofocus is killing me. I'm sure it's killing you guys too. Let's fold this up and use that butterfly joint to get the shoulders back. And as we did before with the head change, you go ahead and just open that up. All right. So from here, we're going to want to pull on the backpack. Come on. Should be able to pull on the backpack and oh, sorry. One thing I forgot is there are 2 tabs here. You want to lift this up slightly, and that will allow you to kind of pull on the backpack and on the front, and it should release theoretically. There we go. There's the front. And the back, there we go. So you saw this tab here holding the back in place. And there's kind of a little nub here that holds the front in place. So let's deal with this chest piece first, because it just tends to be the easiest. We're going to pull up on this door, and it opens to one side. You want to open both sides. Flip this piece up. That's kind of like the cockpit. Open this, split this piece, flip out the die cast nose cone, close that back up. This section here, you want to flip around that you can see the landing gear there, and then just close it up as normal. All right, there we go. All right, next up, we're going to deal with these pieces in the center. How they're going to work is that they come, you want to rotate these pieces around on the shoulder pieces. You're going to want to pull them in here on these die cast pieces and shift it up. They're on a slider, and then they tab up here. So let's do this side first, and then the second side. And you want this side over top of this side. And the way to do that is you want to spring this spring-loaded mechanism. Just fold that in like so. Oh, sorry, this one underneath, I believe. Like so. And then if you tucked in underneath, this that kind of horn shoulder piece will be held into place. And that's why that way it's not just sticking out of the alt mode. All right, back here, you want to flip these hip skirts, open up the copper piece, and open up what is, I guess, a little kind of gun piece. This will come up and tab in here. Close that up. Same thing on the other side. We're going to rotate this around, flip this open, flip this out. This will come up and tab right there. All right. Before we deal with the rest of the upper body, we need to split these legs and untab the butt piece. And here is not very clear either. I've seen some people put this butt flap underneath of these two skirt pieces. I've seen others do it on top. It really doesn't matter whichever way you think is, whichever way you think is cleaner. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. But you can do it like this or like this. And then these hip things can kind of collapse in. So I kind of prefer with the butt flap out, but really doesn't matter, like I said. All right, so when we have this leg split, we're going to deal with the head now. So the head you want to rotate around, and it's also on the slider. You want to slide, this one seems to already be slid back, or I must have slid back. It's very tight, but I think you want to slide it in this way towards the front of the plane as much as possible. There we go. Like so. Then go like this. Then let's go ahead and close these up. So these tab pieces will tab in there, and that basically finishes off the front section. Now we can deal with this section down here. We'll just go ahead and close this up. There is a little peg here that kind of softly pegs in. And then these pieces that were on the back kind of fold up around the head. They don't completely fold in, but you get the idea. It's kind of like that. And we'll just get the arms kind of ready for now. Do that by just going like this, pulling these up, and then you'll see this gun piece. We'll just leave these like this for now, and we'll deal with that later. All right, now we're getting to the more complex portions. Let's deal with the leg by first doing this. So right here, as I showed you before, you need to unpeg this die cast piece. They don't show you this in the instructions. You have to do that, and then you can open up the thigh. Come on. It's hard to get a grip of this. There we go. You want to open up this thigh. You're going to rotate this piece right here with this gun. Rotate this 180 degrees. And then you're going to want to flip this out too, but let's flip that out a little bit later. The next thing you want to do is actually rotate this entire section, all this entire section around 180 degrees. Okay? All right, let me see if I'm getting this right. Yeah, okay. All right, let's deal with that in a bit. Now we're going to deal with the lower leg. You're going to first untab here, or unpeg here. And these pieces will rotate at the base here. These are a bit softer rubber, not rubber, but softer plastic. Get them formed like that. Just pull this straight up. And then here's where it starts getting complicated. You're going to want to untab this section here. There's a tab here, as well as on the other side over here. And then you're going to want to pull up and out to open up the leg. Then from here, you're going to want to pull this entire front section forward. And then this section, this side of the leg, you're going to rotate it backwards, both about 90 degrees. So you're going to have this section going that way, this section's part of the leg still going straight, and this one going backwards. You can also pull this back for now. All right. When you come over here, you're going to want to pull this section just past 90 degrees. The only reason why is just so you can get this tip of this wing out. And then you'll go ahead and flip this down. And on the other side, sorry, this figure is massive, so trying to do this on screen in one cut is very difficult. And then you want to flip this up. Tabs in here and here. And there we have, now you can see where the wing is, right? All right. So we're going to rotate at the thigh so that this fin section will be facing up. And then open this up. You're going to want to rotate this toe all the way down. Flip this section up and then flip the toe all the way down next to this circular copper piece or whatever. And you want to get the thigh as close to the body as possible. And you're going to want to bring this die cast section all the way perpendicular 90 degrees. This section will now straighten out to 90 degrees. This will come out to 90 degrees. So you want all these pieces to kind of be at right angles or in line with each other. That's really important. And again, this toe is going to go right in this gap. You want to, again, compress this as much as possible. All right, so now here's where things get tabbed together. So you see there's a tab here that will go in that section. This tab here will go in this kind of notch. There's a tab here that will go right behind the copper section here. And then you're going to flip this open, and there's a little tab that will go into this slot here. So let's see if we can get this done. Should work without issue. There we go, we got that one in. Got these two in. And then flip this one. And got that one. There we go. So we got this side basically done. Now we'll deal with one of the arms. So at the shoulder joint, you're going to rotate it down 90 degrees. However, you also want to pull this kind of cannon out. You want to bend at the elbow. So this is weird. So you're going to bend outwards at the elbow and then keep this tab facing up and bend again. So it's kind of at that bicep joint, and then at the elbow joint, you need to bend it in an awkward way that is not natural for a robot or a human. You want to have that tab facing forward because there is a tab or slot underneath this thigh piece or calf piece. And that's what it should look like. This piece here is going to come around. This heel piece is going to close up, and that tab here will lock into place with that one. Theoretically. Oh, make sure your fist is correctly oriented. The finger should be facing upwards. There we go. Okay, and this piece should be facing up. And then lastly, I know, a lot, right? This tab here will go into the left section of this. So if you have this correct You should be able to tab that in. And I thought this rounded cutout piece would fit right over this. I thought that would make the most sense, but it actually doesn't. It sits a little bit forward of that. So with all that being said, we got to do it one more time on the other side. So again, keeping this up and just out of the way for now, we're going to go ahead and untab the knee here, or unpeg the knee, split the leg, the thigh, like so. Open it up, rotate 180 degrees on this portion, and then, as I said before, we're going to rotate 180 degrees on what I guess is kind of like the hamstring or quad, maybe the quad, like so, and just keep it in this position right now. So again, this thin piece should be facing up. Now we'll go deal with the lower leg. Unpeg this, rotate it around. Might be easier like that. These two halves will tab together. All right, now dealing with the leg, we first want to untab this side and this side, just enough so we can open this up and clear that toe piece. And as we did before, we're going to separate. So there's a tab here. We're going to unlock that. This golden circle piece will fold forward. This piece and the other side, the other half of the leg will fold back. Again, so they're about 90 degrees from, or 180 degrees from each other. And you need to have just enough clearance for this piece to flip out. So I can't even show this all that well because this wing piece is sticking out so much that makes it difficult to position everything. But you get the idea. You flip this down like that, tab that in. And as before, we need to get this thigh like underneath here. And then we want to get this die cast knee section right here that has a little tab. We want that to come 90 degrees with the leg. This toe section, again, is the one that gets a little complicated. You want to flip it up on this hinge, rotate it, and just the toe will fold down like that. So that when we tuck it in, that toe will go straight next to the body. You can see how this thigh is sticking out too much. We want to make sure we get it in as tight as possible. And then we'll close up these tabs like we did last time. So this tab right there. These two tabs down here. And then this tab up front. Okay. All right, we're almost done. Unfurl this piece, it's tabbed in there. Remember the way we're gonna do the arm. You basically have to rotate it out this way and like that. And rotate this down at the shoulder while keeping this cannon piece or exhaust piece or whatever, this pipey looking piece, like that. This peg or tab will go underneath here once you straighten it out. Okay. Close this up around the fist, like so. This will close up. Tab in right there. And again, we're going to peg that onto this tab. And you just want to take a look at it in this position right now. Make sure everything's kind of straightened out, where these wings are in line with each other. This section is kind of like a straight line with the back section. Hopefully everything worked out. If it did, you are good to go in alt mode. Really quickly, you can put this skid down on the front. Okay. But there's no skids on the back or anything. But you can see just how massive this jet mode is. What do I have in comparison? Here he is with Streak. 1, 2, he's like 3 streaks long and incredibly wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 6 streaks wide. Much bigger than many of the other alt modes that you'll see. So he's a big robot mode and he's a huge alt mode. And the alt mode looks really nice. It looks very reminiscent of what we see in the movie. Just like this, you could probably like, there's a lot of gappage here, and that is kind of accurate. You can fill that gappage in with the cannon. You can flip down this peg for the longer peg and peg that in here. I get that. Okay. And then this piece will tab in either on this side to the shoulder piece here, like it did in robot mode, or onto the other side. Both are a little awkward to get into because of the angle, but it does peg in just like it did because it is the same hole as we saw in robot mode. I have this chain twisted a weird way. Yeah, probably easier to do it this way. There we go. And as before, you can kind of combine the different weapons. There's a tab here, so you can tab in the sword if you really need the sword weapon storage. There is no storage that I can figure out for the shield. I don't think there is any storage. There's nothing in the instructions that indicate where this might possibly go. I thought I figured out a way that might work, but I can't remember how I figured it out. Oh, I remember now. So the one way that I figured out how you could do it is that you can tab this sword in partially with this tab and leave half of that tab open so that you can tab this one in to the top. It's a very dumb idea, but if you absolutely need it, you can have all 3 weapons stored in his alt mode. Again, very precarious situation. Wouldn't recommend it, but there you go. We'll just take this off. But yeah, the alt mode is pretty clean. The bottom is overall pretty clean. Like I said, because of the way I transformed it, that they didn't show, the hook is not visible. If I didn't do it that way, the hook would be somewhat sticking out from the bottom here. I wish there were some skids just like the front on the back, but I guess these things are supposed to make up for it. But again, pretty impressed that this all came from that Svelte Megatron robot mode. Alright, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. There's not a lot to talk about. The paint works really nice. The one thing that I thought was kind of odd is that they didn't paint the canopy here, which I guess is not really necessary because it doesn't have a pilot, but I believe in the renders I saw, this was painted a different color, or at least colored something different. But anyway, that's really it. The only other thing, again, is you can flip this up or you can flip this open to see some control stuff. But again, I don't know what pilot can really fit in here. I guess we can try to be complete by throwing in a spike. And I haven't been able to get him to fit, unfortunately, but maybe he can. Oh, actually he does. All right, I just had to bend him a little bit. This is the spike from MP44, or I think it's also the one that came with Bumblebee. All right, so let's go ahead and transform him back. Getting back into robot mode, as usual, is a lot easier than getting here. So let's start off by coming to the back here. We'll untab this, open this up, and this will collapse. There's a tab in here that will tab in there. We'll pull down on the arm and just get it kind of straightened out for now. Collapse that piece in here, open this up, and then we're going to start dealing with all these sections here. As I said before, there's a tab here, pull that back, and then pull up to release the 1, 2, 3 tabs there. And then from here, you just basically want to explode the leg. And then we can tackle this one section at a time. Let's go ahead and collapse the thigh cannon, rotate it around, and then rotate this section around. And then once you have that done, fold that flap in, close up the leg with the tab here, and then this knee this knee can go ahead and come up and peg in, and that will lock that panel into place. Now dealing with the leg, we'll just go ahead and flip this up, flip this down. This piece needs to go in, and again, you need to just push this just a little bit to get a little bit of extra clearance here to get that folded in. And then you can fold this half of the leg all the way through. There's a little slot on the back here, and again, this tab will slot in right here. There we go. The leg that was up like this will come down. For some reason, this side, I have to untab this before I slide this through, but the other side, I don't have to do that. I really don't understand why, but I guess that's just a mismolding of this side. I don't really know, but go ahead and close that back up. Sorry, I have like pieces flailing around everywhere. Let's go ahead and deal with the foot. Split the toe, get these around to the side, come around, and they peg into these two small holes here. The ankle will rock down like this and around. And now we just have to get these this front shin cover over and around to tab in here, and there's another tab here. Be careful, this section ends up possibly like colliding, so just kind of push that in to make sure it doesn't touch anything else. We'll just tab that in here. Other side, that should be tabbed in. And then we're good to go for now. So we'll just leave the legs like this. Do the same thing on the other side. Untab, fold this down, close this up. We'll go ahead and unpeg the arms. Get them just kind of straightened out for now. Hide that gun in the back of the arm. Untab this section here and pull to release these 1, 2, 3 tabs. Once you do that, once again, you just pull out this entire kind of leg section here. Come on, there we go. Exploding the leg. Fold this cannon up, rotate this around, get the thigh completely rotated around. Once you have that, fold this fin down and close up the thigh. That tab should slot in fairly easily. There we go. This peg on the die cast piece will come up and peg there. Dealing with the wings, fold this up, fold this in. This is gonna come like that. Again, push this just past 90 degrees to get that collapsed in before closing that all the way in. Like so. This will tab in here. This piece will rotate around. See, this one cleared this tab no problem. I don't know why the other side doesn't. For the foot, split this section again, get it around, and pegged in like so. Get the toe down, rotated correctly. And then lastly, we're gonna pull this up while closing up the front of the shin. So yeah, I push on these wing panels just to make that clearance a little bit easier, but there is definitely some clearance issues there. There we go. That leg is done as well. Now, before we come to the upper body, before we release this, you don't want to run into this, so go ahead and untab this. And let's just deal with the hip skirts now. Untab up here, fold this in, and rotate 180 degrees. Same thing on this side. Untab here, fold this in, rotate 180 degrees. And you probably heard that kind of spring-loaded mechanism. It's because this spiky piece came out. I'm going to keep going with this section here just because it's easier to deal with that stuff last. So untab here to release this. And remember, this is on a slider, so it needs to come all the way down. And then you'll see it fits in this gap here and goes on that side. Same thing here. Release the tab, slide it down, open it up to wrap around there. Coming to the nose cone, open this up, flip this piece all the way around with the skid, split the nose cone, hide that in, close that back up, and fold this straight down. Close this up, use these two tabs here to lock in the chest. You'll see this come all down like so. And there's that small die cast tab that kind of resides in here. Kind of holds stuff in place for now. Just leave that like that. Fold this down for now. And you'll see that there's little cutouts here for where it sits there. So let's just leave that like so for now. All right, from here, lift up the whole like kind of backpack section. You also want to get this butt piece up and back. Rotate the thighs around so that they're facing the right way if they weren't before, depending on how you transformed it. And now we'll deal with the arms. The arms just come down to the side. And like I said, make sure that this is all kind of resided correctly in that cutout piece. And that the upper body is tabbed in slightly to that little die cast tab. And we're going to bring this all the way up and tab that in. Oh, nope. That was a mistake. You have to fold this a little bit to create that gap where this canopy will go through. So, go like that. Should go in, no problem. There we go. And there's two tabs here that will go into the neck portion. All right. Finally, we're almost done. Go ahead and tab in these chest pieces. Get these arms around. This cannon piece should face the inside. Rotate the forearms the correct way. These shoulder pieces will rotate around and down. And then lastly, this backpack piece, we're going to open these up. Fold that in. It doesn't tab in anywhere. It just sits right there. And finally, we have Dragoon back in robot mode. So I know that was quite a bit of an ordeal. It probably looked way more difficult than it actually ends up being if you follow my instructions. But I wanted to be very meticulous because it took me a long time to get this transformation understandable for everyone. So, all right, with that, final thoughts. I really like this figure overall. The things that I have issues with are very minor. Like I would like slightly better paint. Oh, I guess the one thing I didn't mention earlier is that immediately out of the box, he feels less substantial than I was expecting for such a large figure. His plastic is pretty light. Not to say it's not durable, but it feels a little bit cheaper than I would have expected for this figure. He's actually quite light, even though he does have some die cast here and there that are really for structural purposes. So that said, he does feel cheaper than he should for this price range. But I think that's also including, you know, the nicer paint, the extra accessories that we got with him as far as the stand and everything. The weapons that he does have are quite nice, even though the shield one doesn't seem like one that actually exists in the movie. But by and large, like I said, I think this is a nice figure. He really looks nice. I'm hoping they don't... Well, I'm kind of hoping that they come out with a second painted version that's a little bit more subdued with the paint and looks, like I said, a little bit more battle damage. I don't know why this is not pegging in. A little bit more battle damage than the one we have here. I think that will look a bit more consistent with what I was expecting Megatron to look like. But that said, this is a really nice paint job. It does have like that metallic flake look to it. Articulation wise, I think he has some limitations, like I said, especially with the thighs. So you're not going to get super dynamic range with him. But when you do get him posed, he does look very, I guess, statuesque in that he does have nice lines to him. He doesn't have a lot of kibble or anything like that. So I think they did a really great job overall. Oh, sorry. If you want to slide the neck forward in this mode, you can. I don't really find it all that noticeable either way, but you can do that on that sliding joint. But yeah, so at I think at least $170-ish, he's quite a large figure, but like I said, the quality of the plastic is a little bit lighter, not bad, but it might be a little bit higher than I would have liked to pay for this guy based on the overall feel and look. But that said, I think he's definitely a worthwhile buy. He's one of the nicer looking movie figures that we've gotten, especially from the last night. So anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. I'll respond to you as soon as possible. Let me know what you think of this guy. If you guys have him in your collection, did you guys have a hard time transforming him like I did? Or maybe it was just me and I just can't follow instructions. Again, thanks to, I believe, Hobby Miser for showing me the way on some of this transformation. And thanks to Toy Dojo for getting this figure to me so I can review it. If you want him for your collection, go ahead and click the Toy Dojo link in the description below and add him to your cart. He is sold out at this moment due to Chinese New Year. Toy Dojo got a very limited stock early before Chinese New Year. But with that and the coronavirus stuff going on, it might be a couple more weeks before a second shipment comes in. But that's really it for me, folks. Hope you guys have a good one.